Hello everybody, and welcome to the Fractal Continuum from the tank's point of view. I'm just going to commentate on this dungeon run to give a little insight on what tanks should be doing or what you should be focusing on. This item level requirement for this dungeon is item level 145. The amount of seals of law that you'll get on completion, of course, is 80 seals of law. It does have another requirement, which means level 60, and it open locks the quest Do It for the Ghillie. You can find Do It for the Ghillie at location X14Y12 and Northwood Champs in the Pillars. So pretty much you just go down to the Foundation, then you go to the Pillars. It's towards the airship area. You pick up the quest, and on completing that quest, the Fractal Continuum will be open. The gear that I use in this run is around item level 177, so it's a little bit high. I recommend for new tanks, if you're first time running this, is that you want to have things that mitigate damage as much as possible. Don't be trying to run a little bit too much damage or do things in Sword Oath. Once you get a decent amount of gear, then you can come back, and on certain things you can actually go into Sword Oath and do a little bit extra DPS. But for the most part, on trash pools, it's probably the safest just to stick to killing the ads with Shield Oath on, and then just simply using Sword Oath for the bosses, or just using Shield Oath all the way through it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get it started. I might fast forward through certain parts, but it is pretty much straightforward. You can see the DPS meter in the bottom right, and what we're working with, and how things are going to go. I do have one guildmate that's running with me. He is the Machinist, and pretty much that's it. When I first ran through this dungeon, I kind of noticed that it's how do you say, a very kind of slow dungeon. It might have been because I've been item level 145. So when I first went through it, we cleared it no problem. The hardest part is, of course, the final boss at the end. And in this party, I'm running pretty much all vitality, as you can see there on the accessories. Sometimes I do like to switch to strength and run that. But like I said, some points I might fast forward a little bit. I think I'm just waiting to get my food on. And there we go. God panels do nothing, that's just for extra lore. First room opens up. You have two the clockwise soldiers. So as always, I'd recommend, if you're first starting this dungeon, is to keep on your number pad the marks. To pull up the marks is Shift M, place them on your hotkey bar. You guys can't see them, I have in the bottom right, my DPS meter is covering it. And, just basically mark the targets 1 and 2. If you have a really good group, solid AoE DPS, then you actually can pull more, but I'm just basically showing you how to do it pretty much standard. And then you really won't need to worry about numbering if you are AoEing them down. So 1 and 2, typical shield lobs, Circle of Scorn, regular aggro dumping things, nothing too fancy or complicated here. I'm doing pretty okay DPS, 324 is alright for all Vic gear. I do believe we have a second set of ads going to come up when you go for that treasure coffer. I mark quickly on the Clockwork Dreadnought. These guys need to be tanked up first, so just make sure you get your regular aggros established on these targets. And then when I get a chance, I'll try to mark the other targets for second and third targets. But nothing too much else here. As long as you're just going to pick up the ads right away with the Immortal Clockwork Dreadnought, you just might need to pop a cooldown. Not too much to worry about, but you definitely don't want it running over to the DPS or doing damage, and just make sure you try to get a mark on that thing, because you definitely want that to die first. Make it the job a little bit easier for the healer. And then I didn't designate what ads to kill first, but you can, or you don't really have to worry about that. And that's pretty much it for the first room. It's not too much bad. That's pretty much how the first set of ads are going to go. Some ads appear out of the walls, some are pretty much just straightforward. As long as you're smart in your pulls and you just make sure you mark your targets correctly, and you're, pop BK's your cooldown and you can keep aggro, you should have no problems in this dungeon whatsoever. One thing you might have to realize, though, is that a lot of these fights might take a little bit long, because a lot of people are first hitting level 60 and they're starting to unlock a lot of these dungeons, because this dungeon drops 160 gear. So some people might just be a little bit slow. Now, with this guy, he comes out, I would still target him down first, and then you're going to get additional AoE ads, so I put the DPS on, or I put the focus on him. And then, of course, I don't have to worry about marking the smaller guys, because they die fairly quick, but my major concern is just maintain the threat on the Clockwork Soldier. while everybody else just DPSs and gets everything else done. So nothing too complex about that, but just make sure you pick up the additional ads behind that. I'm just go ahead and fast forward a little bit. There we go. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but when you get to the next area, there actually is going to be additional ads alongside the wall. So with the ads, you just basically just do your regular flash. There's nothing really too complicated here, but I know a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll run ahead, pick up the next Clockwork Knight and not realize that 3 ads just spawned, so just be aware of that. And then if you want, of course, as you see him come over, you just go ahead and pick up aggro on the next target. And then you just kind of proceed onwards and you just get on to the next room. So we're just finishing up the ads here. I'm just going to speed up a little bit as we go along. And here we're coming to the first boss. And I'll just go ahead and lower the music a little bit. And on this boss, he's pretty straightforward. Take him in the center of the room, dodge the AoE mechanics on the floor, and make sure you pop a cooldown every time he does Rapid Sever. Rapid Sever hits for a pretty good deal. That's why you always should just try to pop some kind of cooldown. If you have a lot of gear, you're geared out very well, or the healer can shield you, that would definitely help, but just make sure you save cooldowns for that. The double sever, just make sure you avoid that or you'll get a do believe. I don't know if it's the, I think that is the bleeding debuff, and then of course he's going to end up eventually putting a bunch of little circles on the ground, and if you get hit by any of those circles, what it does is, if I remember correctly, it does give you invulnerability up. So you see eye for an eye going on me, you know, just here comes a rapid sever. And I don't know why I'm eating all these. This is pretty bad by me. But I guess because, you know, I have a lot of gear, I just not worried about that. But good habits and stuff like that. You just want to make sure, like, again, you don't get hit by those circles. We got some pretty awesome DPS in this group right here. And just maintaining threat. If you're undergeared, you might want to make sure that you incorporate as many shield lobs and using your shield skills as much as possible, and, you know, using your shield swipe, because on the longer fights you will run out of TP if you don't have a fairly decent DPS. But between the machinist and also the monk, we have no problems there. So we're just going through the motions, nothing too fancy here. As you can see, I'm dodging all the ground effects, make sure I pop a cooldown when he does his little sever ability, and that's pretty much all you really have to do. Anything outside as a tank you can try to do to help out the healer is maybe if in your certain situation if somebody gets hit, maybe you sidestep and you can maybe pop off a heal, because paladins have that now. The best way though, I think honestly though, to help the healer is just to make sure that you're mitigating every single type of rapid sever he does. With rapid sever, you also could cast a stone skin immediately as he starts casting it, so you can pop a cooldown, cast stone skin on yourself, and you really don't have to worry about anything. So if you want to do that, that would definitely help out the healer a little bit. Otherwise, the damage is not too bad, and if you're item level 145, it might be a little bit long of a fight. Use your shield swipes. Other than that, it's pretty much routine and straightforward. And we'll just go ahead and just fast forward a little bit to the point in which he dies. And he is down. And now we're on to the next room. We're going to use the Elegant Transporter to go ahead. And now we're in the second set of areas. This area with all the ads and stuff like that isn't too difficult, but there are some things to note, so I'll point them out as we come up to them. Now, one thing I want people to realize is that in this room, there is some things that happens. There is a patrolling LK Celion. I just call them the bad guys. These guys patrol in the room, so if you're basically undergeared, then you just want to wait, pull them out, DPS it down before you pursue onwards, unless you just want to go ahead and pull the entire room, which is nothing wrong with that as well. It depends on, like I said, the makeup of your group and whether they can handle it. Just let your healer know, hey, I'm pulling the whole group, so they can be ready for big heals and have your cooldowns ready. And just always make sure that you have the Celion focus first, followed by the Naga. But preferably, even now, preferably, I just basically kill it first. And then I go over here and I mark my targets. Now, I did a little bit of error, and, well, actually, no. Actually, in this pool, everything's fine. Pretty typical pool here, nothing really complex. As you can see, they don't do anything that's noteworthy. We'll just go ahead and speed ahead a little bit. And they are down. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, had to sneeze. Second area, same thing. Another Celion, so just go ahead and take that down. Nothing to be really said here. just watch out for the patrols, because if you run too far ahead, if you see over here on the left, there's these little red circles underneath the test tubes. And if you're not careful, when you'll run in, you'll just start running it and pulling it right over, then you'll pull additional ads, and a lot of people I get kind of surprised by that. So you just DPS this on this ad, and then pretty much you step over there and you'll aggro the ones in the tank. The tanks will bust out. You got a little bit of time to mark them. Then you just gather, wait for them to get out, cast your aggro abilities. You can even get a flashing up here, but it won't get all three. But like I said, pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy. And make sure out of this group you always target the Naga first. I do believe a friend told me basically they do massive AoE damage, and I think they do some type of petrifying effect. So for the most part, we always just we DPS down the Naga. So that's the only no-world thing. Nagas always need to die first, and just be cautious of the pools in this area, because there are patrols and you don't want to overpool. As long as you can just do that, get down the Nagas, watch for patrols, is very straightforward and easy. We'll go ahead and speed up a little bit. And like I said, just more ads. As you can see, the next set of groups we're just focusing down the Nagas, and that's just the first priority. Let me get you two guys to an interesting part for you tanks out there. This kind of threw me for a loop. After I've done this dungeon so many times, I know it, but basically what happened the first time is I went on to the next room and I wasn't watching, and everybody died. Now if you notice, those test tubes behind you, they're all red now. They're going to spawn these monsters. The Chimera should die first, followed by whatever you want to do for the remaining ads. But don't make the mistake like me and run ahead and basically clear your whole entire party. So I'll pause it right here. I don't want it to be too silent, so that's perfect for the music. Chimera first, and then however you want to deal with everything else. But now, at least you know when you clear out this room with the test tubes, these monsters are going to pop out. You got a couple seconds to mark, and if you want to, I'm pretty sure you can even begin flashing while they're still up there on the pedestal, and we'll get a couple of them. But, I mean, that's pretty much about it, so that doesn't catch you off guard. Alright, and we kill out these monsters, and then we're going to proceed on to the next room. I don't think we have, we don't have any other sets of ads, and then we're going to go ahead and get to the next boss, which is the Minotaur. If you have ever did Orenville 2, I do believe the second boss, it pretty much does the same exact things with a couple slight alterations. We'll just go ahead and just watch the fight go through. This fight doesn't take too long. If you got good DPS, well, to be honest, you want to get them within, if you got good DPS, can get it within 2 ad phases. Slow DPS will get 3. So like I said, make sure you use shield swipe if you want to conserve your TP for the whole fight and not go through too much of it. As you see, the first swipe attack he did, you can be basically ran through him and stand in the back. The second, the 111 ton swipe, when he actually is gripping, using 2 hands on his mace and spinning around, or his axe, however you want to say. That one you just have to run away from. If you see that you can't get away from in time, just pop a cooldown and take the hit. And then after he does those dual combinations, he likes to do that little charge attack, followed by another AoE hit that hits in the frontal cone of himself. So on 11-ton swipe, you can run through him. I would not advise to take it like that. I don't know what I was doing in this party. I guess I was kind of slacking. But that one, you just simply run to the back, wait till he's finished casting, and then run to the other side. Now he's doing his 1,111-ton swipe. I've never gotten to the point where he's actually finished. So what you have to do is actually click one of those tubes. It pops out an ad, and what you need to do is before you finish this feast is DPS down the ad. If you have a healer or a the DPS that want to open the tubes, you can assign them to do that, and you can just make sure that you just keep DPS on the boss, and once the ad's out, then switch over to ad and help them to basically kill the ad. He just did another 11-ton swipe, so I ran through him. The 111-ton swipe, this one I just take. I popped a cooldown, and I also packed Iron Will, so I didn't get knocked back. And then basically after this, he should start up his, after Disorienting Groan, he's going to go ahead and I do believe start charging at everybody. So this doesn't really hurt too much. If you want, after you get hit, you could try to heal somebody. If you want, you could try to, I'd imagine since it's physical, I'm pretty sure, 90% sure you can use cover, but it's just something that you just need to help mitigate. If you want to toss out a heal to help out the healer, or you want to do something along the lines of cast a stone scare yourself after he hits you, or try to do it beforehand, that also works as well too. But other than that, that's pretty much all there is to the mechanic of this fight. It's not too complex. As long as you avoid the 111 swipes, both are avoidable, that will greatly help out the healer. Or if you're in a situation where you don't think you can get away from the 111 swipe, I would just simply tell you just to hit a cooldown and just take it. Maybe pop the cooldown, you'll be fine. you don't really want to take all of them because you want to give the healer the best help you possibly can and just make the healer's life a little bit easier. But like I said, 11 swipe can be run through, 111 needs to be run away from, and then of course when he does his 1111, you have to go to the one of the containers, right click it, opens it up, ad comes out. He'll try to cast Feast on it. I've never had him complete a Feast. I imagine he will heal back a monstrous amount or get some kind of enrage bonus or bonus damage. I would just tell you just to switch DPS once the ad is out, kill it, and before it finishes Feast, and you should have nothing to worry about. But as you can see, it's pretty straightforward, nothing too complex. But as a tank, you just want to make sure you mitigate as much damage as possible. Now, if you outgear it a little bit, okay, then it's okay to tap a couple hits here and there or a healer. But when you're first getting to 60 or new people to this dungeon, a common courtesy is just try to do your best, chain your cooldowns. If you have low DPS, it's going to be a long fight, so make sure you use your shield swipes. Other than that, that's all you have to worry about. But if you're running with competent people, then the fight gets more and less trivial and nothing you really have to worry about. Okay, so this is the last ad area. I'm just going to go ahead and basically step on that platform to open up the Allegan teleporter. You're going to head on through, and let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit. This is a pretty straightforward pool, just a bunch of ads. You got some in the center, to the right and to the left. I would just advise just go F and just pull everything as I'm doing right here, and then you just AoE everything down. If you have a level 1 limit break save and you have a machinist, after that fight you can actually limit break and pretty much kill all of them in one go. Otherwise you just gotta do it the old fashioned way. So pretty straightforward here. Kill all the ads, and then what you want to do is actually, if I could show it real quick, after all these ads are dead, somebody has to come up and click the little violet control unit to activate these little jump circles over here. And then again for the next set, these I don't try to mob all together. I wouldn't advise it. I would just mark this first group and have them DPS down what they need to do. Sometimes they cast these little circles on the ground. Not much to worry about here. As long as you don't stand in the center, you'll be okay. You got to be careful when you're DPSing them because melee, you can basically get trapped inside them. It doesn't really do much if it does though, but you can actually melee them from outside the circle. You just got to be very careful about your distance. So like I said, we just burn everything down on the edge, and then we move over and we start doing DPS to everything else. I would advise to get rid of the enforcement droid. That's what I usually always do, but I mean if you want to get rid of the Hell's Claw looking thing, that's perfectly fine too if you want to get rid of the Death Claw. This kind of hurts sometimes. If you want to pop a cooldown, it's fine, but you really shouldn't need that. Just avoid the AoE things on the ground, DPS get down the targets that are necessary, and then activate the next platform, and then you're pretty much on your way. So we'll just speed up a little bit towards the last part. Let me see here if I can set it up right. There you go. In this last set of groups, you want to be very careful of the Colossus. The Colossus does like a massive like AoE straight in front of them type damage deal. Be very careful because if you get caught in it, you'll probably die. And of course, as always, just make sure you DPS down this target first. If you ever get in a situation where your DPS is not DPSing down the correct targets, be like, hey, you know, I number them for a reason. There's his attack. You get hit by it, you take a lot of damage. So you don't want to be around that. Outside of that, he's pretty simple to kill, and all these extra ads, and then you proceed onward to the next area. And let me see here. And then of course these nodes pop up towards the end too. Just DPS everything down, and once everything's dead, you can just go ahead and hit the node and proceed onward to the last platform or to the boss. The last boss is actually pretty straightforward and easy. It's not too bad. Well, I'm not gonna lie to you. If a healer stands and stuff, if you take too much damage and standing things, there's a lot of things that can kill you. From, like I said, a tank's perspective, the only thing you really need to worry about is just positioning the boss away from the ads that spawn, making sure you're not taking any unnecessary damage and standing in panels that you don't need, and then popping cooldowns and just helping out to help mitigate the damage so that the healer can go ahead and get out the heals they need to. Now, if you could also drop out a heal here and there, that also is fantastic, but this is a long fight as well. Monster has a lot of HP. It gets a lot easier if you have higher DPS, makes the fight a lot better. But out of that, nothing too fancy at the normal. The curator, just go in and do your regular aggro rotation, and you sit him on top of the any panel. I mean, just right there, tanking it where it adds perfectly fine. And it casts like this holy like spell that does damage. The healer has to heal through it. You can't really do anything against that. And then after a little bit in, he's going to go ahead and start spawning mobs. So you see the first set of mobs towards the back left-hand corner. The DPS went ahead and already took care of that, and they got one behind me. And the thing that it does is it changes the squares and makes them light up and makes it so that if you stand in those squares, you get invulnerability up. So it's very important for the DPS to kill at least the ad that's going to be on the lane where the tank is going to be. Because otherwise the tank is going to have to be trying to drag everything around. But for the most part, DPS should drop everything, kill all the ads, while you just sit here and tank the boss. I have a lot of HP, and we got a pretty solid here, so we're not too hurting on any type of damage. But like I said, the first time you run this, if you're not with a good tank or you're not with a good healer, it could be a little bit strenuous, more so on the healer part, because the healer, as long as the healer can just get its heals out, that's fine. But I've seen a lot of healers kind of just lose tunnel vision, and they just kind of sit on certain squares and certain things like that, and they end up dying. So, but like I said, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is just to keep the boss away from the ads. Make sure you try to tank him, or at least make sure you get positioned so you don't take additional damage, and make sure you don't, like, you know, put him on platforms where other people can take damage. Now, truth be told, I probably should have brought that back a little bit, but I figured, well, you know, that should still be no problem for the monk to get where they need to be, but, you know, they can get behind and to the side, but I really should have probably just pulled him back a little bit. So I got another one right there. And I think I got a little bit sloppy right there because I was trying to finish my damage rotation, but you can see what happens when you touch one of those red mines. You get a perilous debuff, but luckily the healer's on point and cleanses it immediately. And then whenever I get low, like I said, if I got to pop a cooldown, that's fine. That's pretty much the only way you can really gauge it. It doesn't really do any specific attacks that just make it so, okay, I got to hit my cooldowns before that, but if you notice that you're dropping towards half, I would say pop a cooldown so the healer can get you back up. And as you can see, the panels start lighting up, so when that happens, I just simply move off the panels and just wait for the boss to hit over towards my direction. And like I said, after a while, those panels dissipate. And like I said, my DPS right now is, well, I don't think the DPS is, I have to worry about the ads. I don't think they're spawned yet. No, they're not. So pretty much I just tank them in the same position. I try to minimize moving so that the monk and melee people can get as most damage as possible, make the fight encounter go a little bit quick. As you can see, my TP's running pretty low, but by the time that runs out, I'll be good to go because the DPS will have finished it off. But like I said, shield swipes help out a lot here, or anything that basically maintains your threat generating mechanic. They got the ads down very quick. I do believe the machinist used the limit break on one of those 4 set of ads, so if you have the line limit break, the level 1 limit break can actually take out a whole row of those ads during one part of the phase if you like to use it for that. Otherwise, if you have like a dragoon or something else like that, limit break, or ninja or monk limit break, I probably would tell you to use that instead, because the ads are real easy to deal with, and sometimes you might be at your wit's end towards the end. You may be feeling the hurt on the healer's mana or something like that. Tank might be out of cooldowns, and you might need that kind of limit break to finish off the boss. So pretty much after that, I mean, you know, you see all the base mechanics. The ads come out, ads need to die immediately. Don't take the boss on any of the panels that light up. Make sure you take him away from those red mines. And that's pretty much all you need to do. Pop a cooldown when you get towards half, and then pretty much the curators are pretty much grabbing the bag. It's not too hard of a fight, but if people don't respect the fight or prepare for it, you can actually, or people get hit by mechanics, you can take a lot of damage. And I've seen some situations where the healer wasn't careful trying to get off that desperate heal, and they died. And, you know, if you have any cooldowns, like I said, or you notice the healer's about to get off a cast, or you notice like a lot of squares go down, you might actually have to pop a couple cooldowns and try to keep yourself up until the healer can get repositioned and cast a heal on you. And that's pretty much all there is to the dungeon. Out of all the dungeons of the level 61 between the 2 or the 3, this is probably the fastest if you AoE mob everything and you move fast with some good friends and good DPS. Outside of all that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully shed some insight on what things I did to make this dungeon a lot easier for myself. And I will see you guys in the next dungeon comes out, or in the next set of videos. And I hope you guys have a good day.